Are you managing to study for your grade 12 exams? Do you know how to do linear programming? How about compound and double angles or calculus? Do you understand how to answer graph questions? If you answered no to any of these questions, then this maths DVD is for you. Each short teaching section specifically targets the most common types of questions that you could get in your exams, and then moves on to extra exercises for you to practice. So, if you need to study for your grade 12 June exams, prelims, finals, or even your national benchmark test, then order your copy today. Weapons of Maths Instruction Grade 12, a newly released DVD based on the highly successful maths revision workshops hosted by ProMaths since 1998, an excellent revision aid to prepare you for exams. We're ready now to start with calculus. So calculus is a very important section. It's counting roughly 25% of your paper 1 that you're going to write in matric. So make sure that you understand this section, and there's certain questions that they will always ask. Have a look over here at this first type. The question says determine the derivative using first principles, also called basic principles, also called your definition. Okay, so if you see any of those words, but most of the time they say first principles. Let's look at our first example. The question says find the derivative of f of x equals 2x squared minus x using first principles. So we have a formula that we're going to use for first principles. You're very fortunate in that the formula will be on your formula sheet. But there's a few things that we need to do before we can use the formula. You may go straight into the formula if you prefer. But what I prefer doing, just to make it a little bit simpler, is to start off by working out my f of x and my f of x plus h, because that's in the formula. Let's look at our solution over here. First of all, my f of x is my original question. So that is f of x is equal to 2x squared minus x. Then I'm going to do f of x plus h. Remember, I'm doing it now before I go into the formula. That means wherever you see x, instead of writing x, we're going to write x plus h in its place. So following on your notes, we've got 2 and open brackets x plus h squared minus x plus h. And then I'm going to FOIL out my brackets first and then multiplying the 2. So I've got 2x squared plus 2xh plus h squared, that's the FOIL. I've multiplied the negative in, it gives me minus x minus h. I then multiply the 2 into those brackets, it gives me 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared minus x minus h. Right, now I'm ready to work with my formula. So I'm going to write out my formula. It's f dash x is equal to limits as h approaches 0, f of x plus h minus f of x over h, and that is my formula. Now in place of f of x plus h there at the top, I'm going to write what I have already simplified. And I've done it already prior to this, so that's what makes it easy here. So it's going to be, remember to keep your limits going all the way down, so it's equal limits as h approaches 0, 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared minus x minus h. Remember that was my f of x. Minus, and I put my f of x in brackets. You need to put it in brackets because of the minus sign in the front. So it's 2x squared minus x. The whole thing is still over h. In the next step, we're going to multiply the negative into the brackets. And we're also then going to cancel and see what we can cancel. So I've got 2x squared minus that 2x squared will cancel out. And I've also got the minus x and the plus x, which are going to cancel out. And therefore you can see that I've now got 4xh plus 2h squared minus h, the whole thing then over h. The next step that we're going to do in our first principles is then to take out a common factor on the top of h. So we take out h as a common factor, and I will then have h, open brackets, 4x plus 2h minus 1, the whole thing over h. And please notice on the left-hand side, I've still got the limits as h approaches 0 all the way through. My h that was my common factor, I can now cancel with my denominator. So I'm left with 4x plus 2h plus minus 1. And what we're then going to do is we're going to substitute our limits as h approaches 0. So 2 times 0 in the place of h will then cancel out, or it's just a 0, so it falls away. And I'm then left with 4x minus 1, and that is how I find the first principal derivative. A good thing to remember with this one is that you can always use your short method derivative rule to check that your answer is correct, so you'll make sure that you know that you're right. It's your turn now, and you're going to try some exercises for me, and then come back shortly and we're going to go through some short method derivative questions.